My name is William Shatner, and I was a starship captain. But I wasn't the only one. So were Patrick Stewart, Avery Brooks, Kate Mulgrew, Scott Bakula, and most recently, Chris Pine. That's a lot of captains. In fact, that's a lot of Star Trek.
Phasers, fire, point blank.
The original series, despite being canceled after only 3 seasons in 1969, spawned perhaps the most durable and profitable franchise in the history of entertainment. At the center of each incarnation of Star Trek is what has become a truly iconic character, the Captain.
Engage.
These dynamic and unique actors have inhabited this role, each bringing their own interpretation and personality.
Warp 6, engage.
The captains, who are they? What were they before they got the role? Why did they get the role? What have they done afterwards? It's a journey of discovery by me, you, and ultimately them. We began our voyage taking the jet to Toronto to pick up our Canadian crew. And surprise, the president of Biz for Bombardier, Steve Rodolphe, met the plane to say hello to me. And well, you know, he tells me he got into the airplane business because of Star Trek. He became an aeronautical engineer because of me.
I still remember my first Star Trek episode on a little black and white television, because that's all we had in those days.
Wow. I had to think about that. As we flew across the ocean, and as I prepared to meet the actors, I had a lot of unanswered questions. Not only for them, but for myself. Oh my God. Patrick, what are you doing here?
Bill, you called me. I'm waiting for you.
That's
You
right.
said you had something you wanted to say to me.
I do. Hello.
Hi.
Patrick Stewart, or as he is now known, Sir Patrick Stewart, was Captain Jean-Luc Picard of Star Trek: The Next Generation. A superb classical actor, Patrick is a member of the Royal Shakespeare Company and brought a tremendous dignity to the role.
Being born at the beginning of the war, I suppose I was used to the idea of war. And if something has always been that particular way, it doesn't seem extraordinary. So we were very poor. We didn't have much. We had nothing really left over at the end of the week. But it didn't create problems for me because all my friends were the same. There was nothing you could compare your life to. So there was no sense of being excluded in society or being without, because that was how it was. And everybody was the same.
I remember a play I did in a camp that my mother's sister ran about something about the Holocaust. Yeah, I played
How
this
old
boy.
were you?
Well, 5, 6, and one of the kids played a dog, and I was saying goodbye to my dog because the Germans were taking me. That was the little drama that we were. When the play was over, I looked out there, and the audience was crying because the subject matter was so embedded in the people. And so I took my bow, and my father came and held me and praised me. And I'm convinced that that was the moment that I thought, hey, this is fantastic. This has got me places with my father and the audience that I'd never dreamt of. And I'm convinced that that's what started me on my acting thing. What about you?
I was 12 when I was first put into a play with adults.
How did that happen? I mean, why would they put you in a play with them?
I had an English teacher. He was the man who first put a copy of Shakespeare into my hand and said, read it out loud.
Why would he do that?
He was an English teacher who loved drama. And he was an actor and director, amateur actor and director. And he wanted, I went to, it was not an academic school, but he wanted us to have some experience of our dramatists. And so he would give us, the first play was The Merchant of Venice. And he gave me Shylock to read. I don't know why.
Patrick, let's examine that a second. You must have seen something you did. Let's pause a moment. Maybe you won't remember what it is, but maybe if we look at it more carefully, something will suggest itself that you haven't thought of in a while.
You see, here's the other strange thing. I never had any difficulty with Shakespeare. It never seemed alien or strange. I mean, this was a 400-year-old text. I found I enjoyed the Shakespeare. In those days, there was a lot of Shakespeare on the radio, and our leading actors would be playing the parts. John Gielgud, Alec Guinness. I listened to them,
yes,
and I copied what I heard.
Yes.
And the mere act of copying...
Even at 12?
Yeah.
Wow.
You don't have the emotional experience, but there is something in the brain and in the body that can make that child connect to the instrument, to the bow, or to the text on the page intuitively.
You know, the valley in the back, as we see it, that's the beauty of the thing. That's how I see the world.
As
like the road to, yeah.
Yeah, but where does that road go to?
The horizon is ever changing.
Right.
You with me?
I am so with you. Ever changing, but can you ever get to it?
No, that's the point.
The point is?
And I'll stay as long as I can see the horizon moving.
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah, okay.
12 miles away, the horizon sort of disappeared. They used to see sailing ships by their sails.
Sure.
Yeah, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's the limit of the... So here comes a ship 12 miles away. They think it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
That was the way it was.
Well...
What's it like now?
Well, that was a way of perceiving. And what we know is that that wasn't sufficient, was it?
Correct.
No, not only that, that the first seafarers in the world were Africans. They didn't think about that like that.
What did they think?
No, they saw the ever-changing horizon. It's true.
So wait a minute, are you telling me that you're tuned in? Avery Brooks was Captain Benjamin Sisko of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Avery, in addition to his impressive work on the stage and screen, is a tenured professor of theater at Rutgers University. And if that isn't impressive enough, he's an accomplished jazz singer and pianist.
Hey, girl. What you doing in here? You're in my heart without consent.
You asked me here, you asked me to come in, and I said I would. You said come in, and I came, and found you here. Down the stairs,
Yeah, that's funny too.
into your head I
Yeah,
went.
into my head. I thought you'd never be. I went to Oberlin College, and I wanted to audition for the choir, this world-renowned choir, the conservatory. And so I met these men, athletes and stuff, I came early, and I said, I'm going to audition, I'm from Gary, Indiana, and the thing. And they said, I said, I'm going to audition for the choir in the morning. And they laughed at me. Said, you can't get in the choir. You're from, I said, no.
Well, wait a minute. You're from...
I'm from Gary, Indiana. I'm
Right.
from this inner city place.
Right.
And so you can't get in
why did they say you can't? Was it from Gary, Indiana?
Yeah, because I had a football jacket on and rose-tinted glasses, and I'm from the urban thing. That's what they said.
All right.
Even though I've been, in this music thing my whole life. My whole life has been music.
So aren't you enraged by that?
No, I just told them I'm going in the morning and I'm gonna get in the choir.
And what happened?
I was in the choir.
Where have you been?
You look so cute in
I'm
that
so hot
box.
in here.
Come on, we're supposed to be doing an interview.
I brought my air-conditioned box because I didn't know how long you'd be.
How handsome. Bill in a
But-
box. You could market it. How are you?
Just add water, which we've done.
Oh, boy, sweet.
Oh, I am so hot just waiting for you.
What does that mean? That's what they all say.
Kate Mulgrew portrayed Captain Catherine Janeway on Star Trek Voyager. You will meet Kate in the setting where she is perhaps most at home, the stage. The first female captain of a Star Trek series. She brought all of her training and discipline to bear and made Janeway an impressive leader.
I think when I was young, acting was, for me, the great escape. Although I took it very seriously.
You wanted to go to college, obviously.
Not
You
really.
have
I didn't.
Well, but you have a desire to knowledge.
Bill,
Yes,
trust me.
trust me.
I wanted my father to pay my way to New York. The only way I could get here was to get in through New York University. I wanted to study with Stella Adler. I have my sister to verify this. College to me was absolutely unimportant. Absolutely unimportant. And as it turns out, I have had much less college than I even thought.
All right.
I thought I dropped out at the end of my junior year. In fact, I've only had 1 year.
Okay, why couldn't you say to your father, I want to go to Stella Adler, pay for that for me, please?
My father, absolute tough
What-
old
tough what?
Irishman.
But his daughter wants to learn. Why can't you go to
Be
your
an
father?
actress.
No.
And you know what my father said to me when I
What?
said I want to be an actress?
What did he say?
And I proved it to him. He said, you're going to break your neck out of the gate. And I'll be goddamned if I'm going to subsidize that.
How did you feel about that?
I said, then I'll do it myself. He said, guess what? You will.
And guess what? You didn't, because you went to college. You said, then give me the money to university.
Yes.
So you fooled him.
I did.
You lied.
I did.
Why did you do that?
Because I wanted to be an actress.
That much.
And I didn't mind sticking it to him a little bit either. He was tough. Tough. But he didn't know that I dropped out. I didn't tell him I dropped out of
So why
college.
did you drop out?
I dropped out because I got 2 leading roles.
Where?
I got the lead in a soap opera called Ryan's Hope. I played Mary Ryan. And I got the lead in Our Town at the American Shakespeare Festival in
Wow, at the
Stratford.
same time?
Same time.
How old were you?
18, 19.
So they recognized your talent right from the very
Yeah,
beginning?
they did. Yes.
Poker face. Shut up. Scott Bakula.
Bill Shatner.
I have admired you for so long. You are my hero.
Are you kidding
No,
me?
no, I'm not kidding, because you're...
Vice versa.
Well, I appreciate that, but the truth of the matter is, you're such a hell of an actor, but you're a singer.
I am a singer. That is true. That
Do
is
you
true.
think of yourself as a singer first?
Yeah, that's where I started.
I know, musical theater.
That's right.
Did you study?
Of course, I still study
A voice?
every week.
You take voice lessons every
Yes,
week?
every week.
Give me a thing. What do you mean, a
what do you
voice
think?
exercise?
A voice, an exercise? Hey.
Jeez, that's wild. I can't sing, but I can ride a horse.
Let's hear it.
Okay, let's go.
Let's hear a little singing.
No, I sang
I
yesterday.
can teach you today. How long do we have?
Really? We've got till 1:30, and then you have to go. Sure. Come on over here.
Here's the, I'll go wherever Calvin takes me, but when you say come on over here.
No. Press your legs.
Yes?
Press your legs against him.
Yes.
Against her very slightly.
Yes.
And she'll go forward.
Yes.
And then if you want to go to your left, you just point her to the left.
Yes.
The little leg pressure.
Yes.
All right. That's good, guys. Let's dismount. Let's stop here. Okay. That was fabulous. Now here's what I want to do. Scott Bakula played Captain Jonathan Archer on Star Trek Enterprise and was arguably the first captain, as his series was set before the original series, even though it was the last to be produced. You got all that. Scott has been a fixture on television for decades, and like Avery, is an accomplished singer.
No, my mother's very musical, my dad's very musical, and I have become.
What does that mean, very musical?
Well, my dad was a concert pianist, so I had pianos in my house my whole life, and that's a huge deal.
And did they say sing?
They didn't say sing, but my mom was a singer. And so there was always music around. And my parents, because my dad went to Princeton, he used to go to New York when he was at school. So he developed this love of New York shows. And so when I was growing up in the 60s, my parents would disappear for a few days, go to New York, see a Broadway show, and come back home with Cabaret, an album from Cabaret, or How to Succeed in Business Without Really, or any of those kind of shows. And so I was getting this kind of distant love affair, and then you'd put the album on and you'd be listening to Mame or Angela Lansbury or somebody, and you'd be like, that's, so I grew up having it around me.
Did they encourage you to sing?
They did, yeah. I started singing from a very, very young age.
How young?
And singing, well, I was singing, I had a band in the 4th grade. I sang with a symphony in the 5th grade.
10, 11 years old?
9, 10, 11, yeah. So I just
You
started.
sang with the symphony?
I sang in a children's choir
in a
in the
choir.
5th grade.
Uh-huh.
And then I sang, the big thing that started me was there's an operetta called Amal and the Night Visitors.
Yeah.
It's Menotti, and I played Amal when I was 13. And I started, and then the acting, the
taking
musical
lessons?
theater kind of came out of that. All day long, I biddy biddy bum.
Biddy, 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 bum.
Yeah.
I
Wouldn't have to work hard.
Yeah.
I love it.
My parents were making a living. Nobody suffered, but nobody had any excess. I played in little kids' plays in parks. And then I got onto Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the CBC, radio for radio drama, fairy tales. And I played Prince Charming. Princess, are you all right? The hushed voice.
Yes.
I'm here. And then I went on for radio, more mature radio, and then college plays and stuff like that. And so it just evolved to the chagrin, worse than that, the astonishment of my father, who really didn't want me to do this. He called it hangers on. You're going to become a hanger-on. You understand that, Bill? No, you can't make a living. Well, my dad was no psychic. I started out in Canadian radio in my late teens, and before you know it, I appeared in my first feature, Butler's Night Off. The 50s became a time of great opportunity for me as I did a variety of radio, theater, and live television productions on the CBC. Those early days of live TV would prove invaluable, setting the stage for what would prove to be the beginnings of my life's journey.
Shatners, I live and breathe.
How are you?
I'm very well, how are you?
Okay, sit down.
Just another day sitting on the
At
sidewalk.
the office.
Yeah, sure.
Look at you. You're me 50 years ago.
You don't look too bad.
Well, I'm 50 years old. I wonder how much I've lost.
Want to go?
Come on, let me see.
You sure about this?
I couldn't be more sure about anything. Give me that hand. Let me feel a 30-year-old hand.
Let's rumble.
Hey, wait a minute.
party.
You already know what to do, right? You got
To the top, baby.
Give me this hand here.
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay,
Come
ready?
on. Let's
All
party.
right, ready?
One.
Okay, 2, 3, go. Hey, wait. Hey.
Yeah, breeze.
Hey, wait a second. Wait. You did the whole thumb thing. I want another shot. Sure. Give me this. All right. You did the thumb thing. Oh, and you did the leaning forward.
Yeah, there you go.
Ah, see that? All right. That's
All right.
2. Best out of
3.
Best out of 3.
Yeah, sure.
All right. You ready? Captain Kirk, huh?
Captain Kirk.
Captain Kirk.
Captain Kirk.
All right. 1, 2, 3, go. Here he goes. You're going now. You're going.
Unbelievable.
Can't believe how strong he is.
Hey, you guys gotta get out of here. Move along, get out of here. Get out of here, man. I can't believe it.
Chris Pine is the latest actor to captain the Enterprise, and his character is James T. Kirk, as was mine. It all becomes clear. Chris is extremely talented, and like the rest of us, thrives on the stage. We speak to him at what promises to be at the beginning of a long and successful career. I watched that train, what's it called?
Unstoppable.
I watched Unstoppable.
Yeah.
And not only did I see a really entertaining film, but I saw a great young actor.
What's his name?
You're wonderful. You've got the
thank
the
you.
whole thing. You got the looks and you got the attitude and everything. It's really great. And I saw you doing some gags.
Uh-huh.
How much of that did you do on the train?
I did a lot of it. You know, I don't have any kind of death wish, but I definitely do get competitive.
Did you feel a sense of risk at any time you were doing the stunts?
Interestingly enough, not really. I think I was, first of all, we had a great stunt team. I felt very secure with that. It's interesting. I think you get into such a zone when it is that kind of high risk that your focus is so placed on the stunt itself that you don't have time to be scared. But it's not Tom Cruise kind of stuff.
I did a cheap version of what you did. And I had to get up on top of the train. I said to the guy, the director, how are you going to do this? He said, well, I don't know. Maybe in a green screen. I said, well, what if I got on top of the train and you went 10 miles an hour, could you speed? Yeah, let's do that. 10 miles an hour, though. What did it look like? It looked like 10 miles an hour. So we gradually upped the speed to 40 miles an hour.
Oh,
and I'm
God.
on the top of the train.
Were you scared?
Out of my mind. I met your dad,
Yeah.
worked with your dad. He's a wonderful actor. He's been an actor all his life. I mean, you're like, what, second generation?
I
Or
am
is there
the third
more?
generation. My grandma, well, in fact, I just found this out recently. My great-great-uncle was an actor. So it actually started way
Isn't
back.
that amazing? So the idea of choosing to be an actor was not foreign at all. In fact, might have been inculcated.
In a way, yeah. You know, I often say it's like I know that my friends whose parents were doctors or lawyers, let's say, when they, you know, around the dinner table, you would talk about your day, and your day would consist of cases or the paperwork you had. And around my table, it was inevitably about the day spent at work, and the work would be Quantum Leap, or it would be Magnum PI.
So around your dinner table, it was show business.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
yeah.
was young Chris intrigued, or?
You know, I wasn't. I wanted to be everything but. I wanted to be I saw Top Gun, and then I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
How far did that go?
That went about 3 days. I have a bad case of ADD. You know, I think, in fact, having grown up so close to it, maybe my reaction and my experience with it was different. Instead of wanting to do it from an early age, it was what my dad did, it was what my mom did, and I met some cool people and got to do some fun things because of it. But I wanted to be a baseball player. I wanted
Were you
to do
good?
everything. I was mediocre. I think when I was young, I was pretty good, and then once I hit 13, I realized it was
You understood that
very
how much
quickly.
it
Very
really?
quick, yeah, very quickly.
And when was the transition between baseball and tennis and fighter pilot?
I had a wonderful English teacher who I bonded with greatly, and we did an independent study on Waiting for Godot, as an English project, and as part of that English project, at the end we decided, yeah, well, why don't we put on the first act of Waiting for Godot? We put it up in this atrium in the Science Building, I remember, and I don't have many memories from that other than it was so simple then. It was the joy of just getting together with some friends and putting on a show.
And with an audience, finally.
Yeah, and it was the beauty of theater. You know, what I love about theater is that there's an ephemeral quality to it. It happens, it comes together, it exists, and then it goes away.
Las Vegas.
Everything's going well.
Good crowd?
Very good.
Ooh, very good.
We beat the world record this morning.
No, world record.
Yeah, we beat
A world record. There's a power that the camera has. Just pointing a camera, people get away, police open up, borders stop, melt. Look at that. Sorry, we're filming. Hey, man, how are you?
Your nephew.
You're my nephew?
Yes.
I don't even know you.
I am Locutus of Borg.
The five captains are so distinctive because of the five actors who play them, obviously. Patrick was cast against type, coming after Bill. Avery, quite obviously, was cast against type, coming after Patrick. It was smart to bring Kate in as a woman, and then Scott had an entire charm of his own. I think it was a very successful, whether it was planned or not, it was a very successful endeavor.
We're getting ready to do another franchise of Star Trek.
Now, I'm going to say it.
Okay.
And we want you to be the captain.
Yes.
Boom, what goes on?
My first thought, not interested.
Why?
And I may have even said, I'm not interested in, the next captain, C. And they said, you're going to be the first captain. And then I was done. You're going to be 100 years before Kirk. I said, I'm in.
This is Captain Archer of the Starship Enterprise. We respectfully would like to ask for your assistance with a little problem.
Sir, they're charging weapons.
Polarize the hull plating. Grab hold of something.
That was an easy kind of a thing because I had a knowledge of what it was going to be, but I don't know what it would have been like to be you when somebody calls and says, come in and audition for, because there'd been like a couple of bad 50s kind of TV shows, right?
Well, what happened with me was I was in New York doing something, and I got a call from a guy named Roddenberry, who said, my name is Roddenberry, and we've shot a pilot, and it didn't sell, but what they said was recast it and we'll take another look. So I go to LA, I fly into LA. So I looked at this pilot that Roddenberry had shot with an actor named Jeffrey Hunter, and Leonard Nimoy playing a smiling Vulcan, and they said, we want to recast it. So I said things like, it should be a little more lighthearted, and they all agreed, and we made another pilot. So I was like, I had a judgment call.
Yeah.
I could be a little bit of a jury there.
Yeah.
Saying I will or I won't, and I said I will if you make these changes, and they did, and so it worked out. It wasn't any great miracle. George, just get it over here a little bit, avoid that meteor. To get a little more to the left, George. As against
right.
We're turning right. So that's what I it wasn't any great thing. And then because
it's a huge thing. It was a tone.
It was.
And that's what everybody fell in love with, was the tone of the show.
But I must point out that the possibilities, the potential for knowledge and advancement is equally great. Risk is our business. That's what the Starship is all about. That's why we're aboard her.
And it was very slowly that I began to realize that if I were to do this, I was going to have to commit for 6 years. And at that point, I said, out of the question. I got too much to do. I can't involve myself in a television series in California for 6 years. Everybody knows it's not going to work, they said. You cannot revive an iconic series. You cannot replace those guys. So don't worry about signing a 6-year contract. You'll never see it out.
Patrick Stewart, who was not Gene's first choice, in fact, he kind of fought, even reading him at first, but Bob Justman insisted, so Gene did. And eventually came to realize that he was just the perfect actor. 30 years with the RSC before he came to Star Trek. And having played all of those kings and emperors and lead characters, you know, that's what a starship captain is.
You're an officer on board this ship, and I require you to perform your duty. That is an order, Commander.
Yes, sir.
I read the pilot. That's what happened. And I said, oh, well, oh, and this is very interesting to me. I mean, defending humankind to some other intelligence in the universe, a man dealing with loss, having to raise a child, indeed a male child, by himself, and be brown, as we spin this tale in the 20th century about the 24th century, I said, okay.
Excuse me, Captain. Here's tomorrow's duty roster for your approval.
Lieutenant
Benjamin Sisko, sir. I've been on temporary assignment here. Before I leave, I just want to say it's been an honor serving with you, sir.
We got word that Kate Mulgrew was cast. And from the moment she stepped on the bridge, we could all relax because Kate is a natural leader. We had an actress who wanted to be there, was immaculately prepared every day. And as I said, just has a take charge element in her personality.
You can try and stop us from getting to the truth, but I promise you, if you do, I will respond with all the unique technologies at my command. Janeway out. Star Trek captains have to be on it right away, because so often the camera's with us and we have to hit these unspeakable marks. Green screens, blue screens, and non-existent aliens spouting this language and setting the tone for the rest of our company. And I had 9 in my cast. And people think that we're having these lovely breaks, don't they, Bill? And being brought coffee and stuff. It's 18 hours. You're lucky to go to the John, right? You get 20 minutes for lunch.
That's exactly right.
Got to be strong. So I think when they were looking at us, certainly Patrick and me, Avery, they were thinking, constitutionally, is she up to it? Then, can she speak the language? Which is, it might as well be Shakespeare. It's so highly stylized. To be able to spin that language out and make it accessible to the audience at large is a gift not a lot of actors have. Lastly, I think there has to be a great sense of discipline. We are all disciplined people, very punctual. So I could never be late. I could never really complain. I had to be on my, I had to do it. And I did it. So I'm very proud of that.
And so was I.
I'll bet you were.
Yeah. And how do you do this thing? And what's the manner in which you say these words? And therefore, the classical work that all of us have done came to use. New York City, the home of American theater. I came here in 1956 with the Stratford Shakespeare Company. And I was performing in Marlowe's Tamburlaine at the famous Winter Garden Theater. Agents found me, producers found me. The Broadhurst Theater, legendary theater, another one. This is 1919, I think it was built. Les Miserables, Cats, gigantic productions, of which The World of Susie Wong was one. In the late 50s, it ran for 2 years. I was the leading actor. At this theater, while I was playing The World of Susie Wong, Funny Girl opened. Barbra Streisand opened here. This was the beginning of her career. While I'd be in my dressing room one day, there was a water pipe going from my dressing room down, descending into wherever. And there was a hole by the water pipe. So I looked down, and I saw that that hole looked down into the dressing room of the dancing girls in Funny Girl. So I spent part of my time in my dressing room trying to see if there was water in the pipe. So this is Schubert Alley, and I was in this theater in a play called Shot in the Dark. Julie Harris, Walter Matthau, and he was hysterical. Julie was hysterical. I was pretty funny, and we ran for a year. The common denominator with the Captains is that all of our roots are based in theater. At one time or another, we've all played memorable characters on the stage. Did I say characters? Did you ever see Star Trek?
Yeah, I love it, yeah.
Really?
I did,
Did it change your life at all?
Well, it's still changing.
And as Apolani, you watched Star Trek?
Yes.
What was your favorite?
Wonderful. I forget the first couple of...
Years?
Yeah, wonderful. They can't be beat.
With Captain Kirk?
Yeah.
Captain
yeah,
Kirk?
Yeah.
And Spock?
Yeah, the whole cast. I love it. There's nothing like theater.
Why are you called Apolani?
Well, it's like a Bigfoot George. That's what the Italians do. They have a lead-in. Yeah, I love you. You look so nice.
Oh, thank you.
I'll take you. In Jewish, you say you're a bargain.
Bye-bye, honey. That's New York.
Because the work on Star Trek was the scenes and the stories were generally serious, the moments between the filming were where we had the balance, the yang to the yin, and that's where we were just shamelessly silly.
Maybe the rest of the cast of Next Generation were having a good time right from the get-go. I wasn't. I was too nervous. I felt out of my depth, out of my comfort zone. I had never filmed in Hollywood in my life before. I'd had no ambitions to film in Hollywood. I was just scared and exhausted all the time. I'd never worked so hard in my life. I called a meeting of the principal cast of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I spoke to them very seriously. And I said, I think there is too much messing about. I think there's too much fooling around goes on in this show. We are wasting time. We get days off occasionally. Some of us get a week off at a time. The rest of these people on the set, they don't. They're here every day in, day out. And I think we've got to be aware of that, and I think we need to be taking this more seriously. And I remember Denise Crosby, who was Natasha Yar, saying to me, oh, come on, Patrick, we've got to have some fun. And I said, we are not here to have fun. They never, ever let me forget that. Because the one thing that I took away from my Star Trek experience, every episode, every movie, all 4 of them, was that for the first time in my life as an actor, my fellow actors showed me how to do good work and have fun at the same time.
They changed you?
Yes.
Morning, darling.
Deep Space Nine was funny because it's like Avery was the leader. He was our captain. We paid attention. And he did set the tone. He set the tone in terms of respect and seriousness.
Any scene, especially 2 character scenes, is like a sport, and you're playing it together and you want to get the volleys going. You're not competing with each other, but you are demanding of each other that you deliver the goods. And with Avery, that was implicit.
You're firing me?
I have no choice, Benny. It's his decision.
Well, you can't fire me. I quit. To hell with you! And to hell with Stone!
Try to stay calm, Benny.
No, I'm tired of being calm. .com never got me a damn thing.
Do you try and relate the music to the performance?
It's all music. I mean, I could talk about literature, in terms of music, not just the form of it, but like the sound and the complexity of the movement and the expression of it. Sure, I sure could. Well, our Blakey said that, expression, he's talking idiomatically, but not so much so that, the highest form of expression is this music from God through me to you. It is as wide and varied as there are people on the earth. That's what I know.
Music.
Yes, absolutely.
Everybody has their song.
Go ahead.
Everybody has their music.
Go on.
They vibrate according to their own tempo and timbre.
Go on.
So that everybody has a unique piece of music.
I think so. Go on.
They play it, and it goes out into the universe. We don't know whether it returns or not.
Returns to whom?
Exactly. Does it make a cycle?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I mean, that's the what do you call it of humankind, and to some extent, the desire for return. That's the what do you call it of humankind, the small of humankind. I need to get it back. No, you don't.
I need to believe that my existence and my music, in some manner,
means something.
Continues.
Whether you get it, whether you hear it back or not.
When I took command 10 years ago, I saw myself as an explorer. I thought all the risks would be worth it. Because just beyond the next planet, just beyond the next star, there would be something magnificent, something noble.
The thing about working with Scott is he has such a disarming quality there's just something about him that you're put at ease. And I think that he wants that to happen. He wants that sort of one-on-one relationship with a person.
Lead me along the lines of your awareness of Star Trek.
My awareness?
Yeah.
It starts and ends with you.
Really? Tell me about
Yeah, because when I was in college, you guys were hit the rerun world 5 nights a week, and it was mandatory viewing. And I was in a fraternity, and the fraternity stopped at 11 o'clock at night. You were wherever you were, if you're at a bar or whatever you're doing, studying, whatever, stop, Star Trek's on.
What were you thinking? Why were you watching?
I watched because I loved the male relationships on the show. And of course you watch because you want to be you guys, you wanted to be you, but the way you guys related to each other and the camaraderie and the friendship and the love. I always said, the love, and this, that was my goal. One of the things I was attracted to about doing my version was to try and get that back. And we didn't succeed the way you guys did. But that's why I watched.
Why not?
That's a good question. There's magic in casting, and there's magic in the actors around you. And you can't make it happen. It either happens sometimes and it doesn't happen. I had a great cast. I couldn't really tell you. All I know is that you guys had it in a way that was so appealing.
Do you know what you get if you feed a tribble too much? A fat tribble. No, you got a whole bunch of hungry little tribbles.
Well, Bones, all I can suggest is you open up a maternity ward.
What's interesting about it is everybody says it's so brave of you not to try to imitate William Shatner. I said, well, of course, there's no courageousness at all involved. I think, the obvious choice would be clearly to try to do your own thing, because anything else would just be a joke. There was a conversation all the time about, because your imprint on the character is like Nimoy on Spock will stand the test of time. So knowing that this was some kind of prequel and we are essentially versions of, I am a version of you, to hopefully pepper the character with some things that would, mannerisms, behaviors.
Something that would resonate.
That would resonate. I'm coming with you.
I would cite regulation, but I know you will simply ignore it.
See, we are getting to know each other.
In the early weeks of shooting the pilot, somebody said to me, how does it feel to be filling the shoes of Captain Kirk? How does it feel to be filling the shoes of William Shatner? And I said, excuse me, but William Shatner and Captain Kirk is still filling his shoes more than adequately. I'm attempting to fill different shoes. You hovered over our early weeks and months on the series, like a Klingon warbird. Oh no, the Romulans had warbirds, didn't they? You see, you know.
It's been longer for me than you.
I know, but I bet you would not have made that mistake.
I would not have used that simile at all.
But I was trying to find, you know, something that rather ominously, slightly threateningly, you know, kind of hang over your heads. That was what William Shatner and Captain Kirk was, I think, for many of us, though we would never have admitted it at the time.
Did you ever see the Star Trek I did?
No.
Had you ever heard of me?
Possibly.
Possibly not.
Possibly not.
That's a pretty nice looking costume there. What era is that?
Oh my gosh!
Oh my God! What era is that?
I'm a Tribble Slayer.
You're a Tribble Slayer?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wish I were a Tribble. Hey, everybody. Imagine finding you here. Back of my hand.
Hi there. Can I just have a big heart?
Doesn't recognize. That's hysterical. Jerry Ryan. Listen, if I had to vote, she was the most beautiful girl in Star Trek I ever saw. Ever.
Oh, you're so
Ever.
sweet. And you would know.
Mr. Shatner.
Holy cats, look at that, the pumpkin.
Holy crap, that's William Shatner.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh my God. I was this close.
Do you believe this? The most beautiful girl in Star Trek is still selling.
Still selling.
Look, beautiful.
Liz, is it okay if I kiss him?
Yes,
Kiss
it's
him,
okay.
kiss him, kiss him.
It's okay. Is your husband here?
He is.
Where is he?
Where's Nassim?
How are you? Hi, how are you? Sure. Can't. Oh, excuse me. Sally Kellerman, the most beautiful girl ever appeared on Star Trek.
The real way to determine the success of the various captains in the Star Trek franchise is to see whose action figure is still available. Now, we have Patrick Stewart here. So Patrick is a very popular and very wonderful captain, but how popular could it be? Because you can still find his figure. Is Captain Kirk here? Do we see a? Apparently, this is very exciting news for you, Bill. You're sold out.
During the shooting, you know, audience isn't quite aware, as you and I are, that the hours are so overwhelming.
Yeah.
Minimal 12-hour day, and most days longer than that. And then you've got publicity and interviews and rewrites and other things to do, having to do with production, that the end of the week, you're exhausted. You only get enough rest on the weekend sometimes if you're not traveling someplace, and then you're back again doing it for 40 weeks. So the working actor, if he knows anything, is not complaining, but it's overwhelming and no time for relationships of any kind, including your family. Did you find that?
Yeah. very much so. Not as much in Enterprise, but when I did Quantum Leap years ago, that was a marathon. I likened that to a marathon, to try to get to the end of the season.
Right.
I had 5 days off in 4.5 years when I wasn't on the set, from first shot to last shot.
Did it affect your relationship?
Absolutely.
Did it affect your marriage?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How badly?
Well, that marriage ended.
Right. So did mine.
And that was really it wasn't a direct product of it, but it was certainly fed into it.
So you're working all these hours, and your wife is waiting at home, and she says, will you be home for dinner? And you say, yes, dear. We're on our last scene.
Yeah.
We should be done by 6:30.
This is like bad memories. We all have them.
Right. And then the camera breaks down.
Yep.
And 6:30 becomes 9:30. Yeah. And you get home at 9:30. She says, I thought you were going to be here at 6:30.
Yeah.
Where were you? Says, what do you mean, where was I? I was pacing back and forth, saying, I got to get home for 6:30. And they say, you can't leave.
Yeah.
What? Tell me, describe.
Did you have kids during? Did you have kids yet?
I have 3 children, and all 3 children were born in that period of time.
Yeah. I only had a daughter at the time, and then my second child was born during the time. And that was the part of the goal was to get home for dinner and also to see your kid before they went to bed.
Yes.
And about a year into it, after we kind of figured out what it was, and I was a new actor, I didn't have any kind of cachet, so I couldn't say I want this time off. I don't want to work these nights. I don't want to get I don't want to have any forced calls. You can't do this. I just said whatever. I'm there. Whatever you need me, I'm there.
You're an actor trying to make a living. You have the potential for making a good living. Save this money from Quantum Leap, and you may not have any worries. At least not how to pay the rent.
Yeah,
worries.
unless you get divorced and get half of the way.
I'm glad to meet you.
But you can retire. Yes?
Yes, right there. Exact same history.
Really?
I was never there. This is for me with Star Trek. I'm Star Trekking, and I'm getting home the same hours you were talking about. And my wife says, this isn't working out. And I've got 3 kids. And it didn't work out, and we did get a divorce. And I found myself broke.
I remember once sitting around a dinner table and hearing colleagues, actors, directors, and hearing one of them say, I love my job, but my family always come first for me, always. And a voice inside my head said, not me. Wow. I can say that now because I've talked about this with them, and they know about it. My son, of course, is now an actor, but that was my life, my work, and still is, essentially.
Are you lonely?
Never.
You're never lonely?
I've always been content with my own company.
Really?
Even when others weren't.
What does it feel like to be divorced?
I have 2 major regrets in my life, and they're both to do with my failure in my marriages. How I behaved, what I did. Can't be corrected. And guilt, I think, has gone, but regret remains. And I have that very strongly. And it has kind of handicapped me a little bit. I've been married twice, divorced twice. I don't know that I could possibly do it again.
I'm the only female captain on this franchise of ours called Star Trek. And I think that the great difference is that the female is hardwired, once she has her young, to take care of them and to raise them. And I couldn't do it well. There were 16, 18-hour days on that set for 7 years. And I had 2 little kids. And believe me, Bill Shatner, they resented it. And to this day, they never watched it. They disdained it. They had nothing but dripping contempt for it. And I don't blame them. So the woman cannot have it all, but I've watched you guys, and you guys can.
So, brings me to the meat, the heart of what I want to talk to you about.
How can you be a starship captain, a real starship? How can you be a naval captain going off overseas,
to the Delta Quadrant?
To the Delta Quadrant.
Yeah.
And have all those hormonal things rage? How can you be Secretary of State?
It's very hard.
Well, hard is nebulous. Isn't it impossible to have the same objectivity that a man has?
Yes, of course it is.
Oh,
it's
you
impossible to
admitted
have the
that.
same gender. I mean, I'm a woman, you're a man.
Right. So it's quite different.
It's absolutely different.
To be a leader, a woman leader, is quite different from a man leader.
There's no question about it. Now, I'll sit back and look at Mrs. Albright and Secretary Clinton, and I'll say to myself, how do they do it? But I asked myself the same question. It's just diabolically difficult. Now, they're both at an age where they've let the rest of the hard work is gone. The kids are up, right?
But the lack of hormones is raging there as well. I mean, it never stops.
It doesn't stop. No.
So.
This could be unanswerable.
No,
but
it has an answer.
But you have an answer for it.
Well, you have an answer.
I would apply this, let me apply it to myself as an actor and not as a politician or anything else, because I couldn't speak for those women. I would say, this being the second oldest profession, it's all right to be an actress, but it's not as kind as it was even 200 years ago, when you were allowed to bring your children with you to the theater, when children were a part of your life. Now everything is severely compartmentalized, and you know Hollywood better, much better than I do. It's tough. It's a boys' club out there, and they're very tough. You play by their rules, and you must subscribe to them. So that doesn't have any...
See, that sounds very politically interesting, what you said, but it doesn't make any sense. What do you mean play by their rules? You have to appear at 6 o'clock in the morning and be ready with your lines and say the words and be there till the end of shooting.
Right.
That could be 8, 9, 10. You and I have worked till 12, 2, 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's correct.
To complete the day's work on a Friday especially.
That's right. When
And
there's
then you're
no
wrecked for
turnaround.
the weekend.
That's right, you're wrecked.
You got to sleep all day Saturday.
But you're not wrecked, because the minute you get home at 5 o'clock, you've got 2 hours before those kids are jumping on your bed.
Right.
Now, as a man, I suppose you have the license, or the opportunity at any rate, to say, go to your mother. But if you're a single mother, which I was with your 2 little children, you get up.
So what do you do? Now.
You get up.
Okay, so I have just come from, in the sequence of activity that I'm doing, I've just come from England with Patrick.
I know you have.
Flown. I'm in jet lag, okay? I've survived because I don't have any kids with me. My wife and I stayed in the room, we rested, and I am energized to talk to you. But if I were jet
And you
lagged,
look very, very dapper.
Thank you.
And let's be frank, Liz looks after you a little bit, does she not?
That's right, absolutely.
I don't have
My
anybody
wife looks
looking-
after me. You don't have anybody looking after you.
Of course I don't. I
And you were
never
looking
did.
after your kids by yourself.
That's right.
How do you, it's impossible to do.
It is impossible, but it's not obviously not impossible.
Well,
I did it.
No, it is impossible to do. So how did you do it?
I'm afraid I didn't do parts of either thing very well. I didn't reach the excellence I could have reached had I had a little more rest and a little more help. And I'll have to live with that myself. But I did the very
The
best
excellence
that
with
I
the
could.
children or with the role?
Absolutely, my mother.
And what about the role? What about Jamie?
Well, you know, my pride, my ego is very substantial. So I never gave her less than, I would say, 95%. But there were days when there was absolute exhaustion. There were days when my kids were suffering. And, you know, you can't walk off a set. You know that better than anybody. There's no way they're going to let you go. So the preoccupation with your children's pain is enormous. And add to that 8 pages of technobabble that you've got to execute by 2 o'clock in the morning, and you can't get to the phone because they don't let you. It's very hard.
Did you lose family time?
Of course.
Did it hurt?
Of course.
But how much harm?
Well,
was
you know,
suffered?
you have to ask them. I mean, but because the attendant of the movement of time, you know, for us all, you know, there it is. There's the one hand or the other. I mean, who knows? Therefore, you know, in retrospect, you know, I mean, you could do it that way. You say, oh, well, I should have done this, as opposed to, you know, I mean, who knows? I mean, so I hold fast to what I've chosen to do, and I'm not apologizing for that. But the attendant toll taken on family and all of that that's it.
What do you mean that's it? That's profound.
Yeah, man, that's
that was
it.
terrible.
It's true, baby.
That was terrible.
Well, it's not terrible or not terrible.
Well,
it's
you suffered.
True.
You suffered.
It's true. They suffered.
You suffered.
It's true.
But you suffered as well.
Now watch.
Well, if they suffered,
watch
did
what
you
I'm
suffer?
saying to you.
I'm listening.
It's true. It's not terrible or not. It's true. You know, the toll on people, you can't get it back. I mean, no matter what. I mean, whether the decision to make, you know, to do a thing or not to do a thing, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. Did you discuss this with Vicky like this, or did you?
She knows, of course. Our move, whether we survive it, is still extant, isn't it? Whether we survive all of the sum of
The cumulative effects of life.
That living, baby. Like you. What's different?
The same. This is 50-something years later, and I'm an old man reminiscing about a kid who was so afraid. I was afraid of the future. I was afraid of my fellow actors. I was afraid of not being good enough. I didn't realize it then, but I'm starting to realize it now. God, I come from such a sense of inferiority. I'd been asked to come to Stratford because I'd been playing in professional theater in Ottawa. And so I came to this tent that was erected over a hole in the ground. This was the Stratford Theater. We were all there, the acting company, waiting for Tyrone Guthrie, legendary English producer, director. And I had come to his attention because I had understudied Chris Plummer in Henry V. Chris, about 2 weeks into the run, got sick for one day, and they asked me if I could go on. And I went on. I got lucky, it went well, and then I got good notices, and my name became known a little bit at Stratford. But this was a time of great ferment for me. I didn't know whether I could make it as an actor. I get to meet my old friend, Chris Plummer, on the stage at Stratford. He might not have been a captain, but he was a general. Coming to Los Angeles to do Star Trek, do you recall telling anybody and any reaction you had?
Yes, I wanted to keep it quiet.
You told no one.
I said, I said I'm in L.A. for tests. No, I'm joking. No, I was very proud of it. I told everybody. I went on and on saying that you realized you couldn't go on with your career without hiring me.
Chang.
Can you see me? Oh, now be honest, Captain. Warrior to warrior.
Chang was an integral part of Star Trek, a character that the fans, as I understand it.
Yes. Well, you know, I was a serious Trekkie when it first came out.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that.
No.
But I was in the early '60s when it began.
Yeah.
Wasn't it the early
middle
60s?
yeah.
Middle.
Yeah.
But I was living in England all through the '60s. But I watched you on television.
Oh, for gosh sake.
Over and over again. I can play a complete Trekkie. So when you asked me 100 years later to play in this very witty Star Trek VI, I played this, I think the only Klingon that didn't have a hairpiece. And I had this sort of blind eye and this eye patch with a nail through it. I looked a bit like Moshe Dayan in Heat.
In heat.
Yes. And I had the most marvelous time playing with you guys again. And everybody seemed to be a Canadian on that show.
That was right. We larded it with the finest talent in the world, which just happened to be Canadian.
Of course.
The line that stayed with me was that you should read Shakespeare in the original Klingon.
Yeah. Tickle us, do we not laugh? Prick us, do we not bleed? Wrong us, shall we not revenge?
Yeah, I think it was something like, you haven't heard Shakespeare until you've heard it in the original Klingon.
And sitting here in a seat of Shakespeare's, it's really funny. It strikes a chord. Was Chang a challenge?
Yes. Yes. Well, it was a challenge to begin with because I didn't want to look like every other Klingon that had ever walked with the massive head and the massive brow.
Right.
I thought that, and we ran into big difficulty because, of course, isn't there a language already in Washington?
A guy invented the Klingon language.
Yes, and it's been certified and it's been recognized as a language, dead or alive.
Oh my gosh!
And so I got a lot of flack. A lot of people were saying, no, you've got to have all this, because it's traditional, we can't walk away. Well, finally,
Nick Meyer,
Nick Meyer, who wrote that very witty, tongue-in-cheek script, he stood up for me, and I didn't come to you because I thought, no, Bill's not going to help at all. So at least the director stood up for me, and I got my way. I didn't have the long hair.
The omelet.
I looked, yeah.
To be or not to be.
I am a native of the planet Risa, which was the planet that everybody went on vacation when they had time off.
It's a spring break planet.
Yes, basically.
Spring break planet. Risian's gone wild.
From TOS to TNG to DS9 to Voyager, it's pretty much also inspired my life. I study mechanical engineering.
The next generation right here.
I've always been a Star Trek fan. Humanity has settled its differences with each other, and that's what I really would like to, I'd like to live.
Well, he is about the most ultimate Star Trek fan that ever lived. He came from Albuquerque and drove up 12 hours in a van, and it was quite a difficult trip for him, but it's worth it. He's had like 2 hours of sleep. He doesn't care. It helps his mind, he says. It's, I think, something that's positive and creative, and it brings a lot of meaning to him.
For a long time, Bill had no interest in going to the conventions. He and Leonard both had issues with getting away from that character, only being identified with one role. They were actors. They wanted people to appreciate their ability for other things, not just for the one character they played. He finally did a convention in New York in 1976. He was very nervous. I don't think he realized what it would be like to get on stage and have, in this case, thousands of people who absolutely adored him. Just that love that hits you when you get on that stage. And he started going to conventions after that.
I'm doing a documentary called The Captains. Avery Brooks. What a great guy. But he's kind of out there. He's doing jazz things in his head. Captain. Avery, are you there? Yes, I'm here. And that phony accent that Patrick Stewart puts on. I had the best time with Patrick at his house. He's got a great house in the country. Can't tell you where, can't even tell you which country. Kate Mulgrew in New York. So she's on her way down to the location, and I sat in a packing box, and people start passing by, and they're looking at me, and I'm like a homeless guy in a packing box. Isn't that Captain Kirk in there now? Yes!
What's your favorite dramatic scream, Spock or Khan?
You gotta help me. Scream Spock like I did.
Spock!
Okay. Now scream Khan like I did. That's pretty good, kid. Which is my favorite scream? Screams of ecstasy, but you wouldn't know about that. Goodbye. Goodbye. So much.
And you know it's mutual.
I know. Where are we going now?
You have a backstage meet and greet. Right
A backstage meet and greet? How are you?
Fine, how are you?
What's your name?
My name's Dawn. I met you in San Francisco.
I recognize your pretty face, Dawn.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, Deborah. How are you? Pleasure to see you. Hi, how are you? Really? Pleasure to see you.
Amy, it's nice to meet you.
Hello, Amy. Pleasure to meet you.
Hi, Blair. Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Andy.
Hi, Scott. How are you? Pleasure to meet you. Hi there. How are you today?
Shatner, this is Captain Dave.
Hi, Captain Dave. How are
One
you?
of your biggest fans.
It's a pleasure to see you. How are you? There you go. I understand you're fine. Are you excited? That a boy. It's good to see you. You having fun? Must be quite an experience, huh? It's good to see you. Take care of yourself. So I am on this Bombardier airplane, and I'm watching for the first time you. I'm looking at the dignity and the seriousness and the application of your talent to this role, and I'm thinking, this is really good. And I know the quality of your talent. I've recognized a long time ago what a fine actor you are. And then I plumbed a note inside me that I want to talk to you about, and that's this. When I did Captain Kirk, and we opened up in the first season, the notices were not particularly good about the show and not particularly good for me. Whatever they said about me was not as laudatory as it had in the past and what I was able to get sometimes in the future. In fact, Leonard Nimoy, who played Mr. Spock so well, so uniquely, that although he didn't have spectacular things to do that we would think of for an actor, he played the things so differently that it caught the attention of people and the critics, and he had a nomination for an Emmy, and none of that came my way. Then as the show continued, I would get things like, hey, beam me up Scotty. A sort of, what it seemed to me, a sort of derisive tone. And then when my series was over, and a few years later there began conventions, I was asked to do the first convention. And I thought, I'm not gonna do a convention with all those people in costumes and makeup and all this. And then after a few conventions, 15,000 people would attend. And I thought, well, 15,000 people, I guess you can't ignore that. So I went on and I would do these conventions, and there'd be all these people in wardrobe and costume. And what's it like to be Captain Kirk? And hey, Captain, and they're taking me as Captain Kirk. And I'm not Captain Kirk, I'm William Shatner. And more, and I think the right word is derisive. I realized on that airplane that I was slightly embarrassed about playing Captain Kirk. I never thought of it in that way. But I thought, all these people that would come up to me, and one who came up to me in Toronto when we landed to pick up Canadian crew, the head of Bombardier, said what a fan he was of me, and that he had become an aeronautical engineer because of what my appeal to him. And as I know, and I want to hear about it, so many people have come up and said, my life has changed as a result of seeing you work. And what I have done always in the past was go, oh yeah. I'd say to myself, yeah, right, not really. I mean, I'm part of this Hollywood mystique you guys think, and you think I affected it, but not really. I would deny it, even if I didn't so in front of them. They're sure. And for the first time, when the head of the CEO of Bombardier said I was affected, for the first time, because I'm doing research on you, I looked at him and I thought, is it possible that what I did all those years ago really did affect him? I was in denial, and I was in a sort of derisive feeling about Captain Kirk until I saw you play Captain Picard. And I thought, you've brought all your talents, all your excellence, all your gravitas to the part. And then your statement in which you said all the kings and emperors and romantic parts that you have played classically and elsewhere all have led up to playing Captain Picard. But I too have played classical roles and been in wonderful productions, and I never thought of it quite that way, that the way Captain Kirk changed my life, I never quite thought of it that way until this epiphany I've had as a result of doing the research on you.
How extraordinary. How extraordinary. I have so many observations about what you've been saying. There are many places in which our careers and our lives and work overlap.
Tremendous number.
I don't believe this is coincidence. I think Gene Roddenberry sometimes knew exactly what he was doing and sometimes was just working on instinct when he cast you, when very improbably he cast me. And the story about all my work prior to Star Trek being nothing but a preparation for sitting in the captain's chair of the Enterprise, I said this very early in the first season when we were doing a lot of press. And I found myself being asked questions or listening to comments that were ever so gently, ever so subtly implying that given my past, my history as an actor, wasn't I just slumming a little bit now? You know, hadn't this just taken a little bit of a downward... I was so offended by these suggestions because you know how hard we worked on those shows, the hours that we put in, that everybody put in. If I filled that chair at all well, if I had any authority on the bridge or on an alien planet, it was because of what I'd done before that gave me that confidence and assurance, and I think thoughtfulness about the work. And very early on, I remember in a conversation with Jonathan Frakes, Commander Riker, saying, I'm going to do the best work in this syndicated science fiction television show that I can possibly do.
Who am I to argue with the captain of the Enterprise? What's the name of that planet? Viridian 3?
Yes.
I take it the odds are against us and the situation is grim.
You could say that.
Sounds like fun. You applied all your skills without any sense of it being less than demanding everything you had.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean that when I was shooting that I didn't do anything less than my best.
Yeah.
I was coming from a more emotional point of view, I think, and that I was trying to generate as much emotion within what was written, to extract as much juice out of it as possible. Yeah. That when I look at some of the things I did, why wasn't I more diffident about that, instead of trying to extract every moment of drama out of it?
But there's one difference that separates the two of us. We have all of these similarities. You were creating a show. We were developing that creation of yours. The passion, you see, it's so good you talked about the passion that you put into it. My passion was of a different nature from yours as Captain Kirk. You were setting the style, the form, the shape, the quality of the energy of that series.
I finally realized that it wasn't Starfleet I wanted to get away from. I was trying to escape the pain I felt after my wife's death. I thought I could take the uniform, wrap it around that pain, and toss them both away. But it doesn't work like that. Running may help for a little while, but sooner or later the pain catches up with you. And the only way to get rid of it is to stand your ground and face it.
From God to you, through to me.
Yeah.
What happens when you die?
Tell me.
Wish I knew. Do you have a thought? It could be good, it could be bad. That makes me smile.
We said do.
Well, what's your feeling about life and death? What's your
Well,
feeling?
I think we're just, the bodies are just temporal, and another word that you and I can use, but, you know, we're not our bodies. Are we? Do we have a soul?
I
think so.
And does that soul go someplace?
I think so.
Like where?
I think it's all around us.
Yeah?
It's all around us,
It's not in a pearly gate or?
No.
But the souls, the essence of the lives
of
that have been before are around us.
Always. And so
Did they have an influence?
Oh, absolutely.
And helping guide?
Yeah, sure.
So you don't think in terms of life and death?
No, I don't. I think about it in terms, for other people. But I think I'm so. The longer I'm here, and the more I see, the less I think about that, because so many people don't get as long as I've had. So many people don't have as much as I have. And so I think as you get older, people always talk about perspective, but I think you get more grateful.
Mr. Shatner, you're well-traveled, well-read. You've loved often and well. You've experienced a great deal of grief and probably no end of problems that none of us will ever know. So I have to conclude that you're an examined person. So I want you to really answer this question. When you die, do you believe that there is a life after that? Or do you believe that it is ashes to ashes, dust to dust?
When I had to play the death of Captain Kirk, the night before, I said to myself, I have to look at the moment of death. How will I feel? And so I imagined myself on the threshold. I fainted once when I drank a cold beer after a hot workout. And I went, and I went out. I chug-a-lugged a cold beer, and I was sitting there and I passed out, and I was, 20 seconds later, I was like, what happened? But I remember the closing in,
yes,
the irising in of my feeling. And like I thought, holy God, I'm going to zoom, and I was out. So what is that moment of death? Where is that margin that you say I'm alive and I'm dying? I'm dead. I had to imagine that. Then I had to characterize it by what would Captain Kirk do? So there's two answers here. One is the death of Captain Kirk. I imagined Kirk with a lifetime of looking at the
alien.
The alien coming towards you.
Right.
And instead of fear, I always played, wow, look at that. Oh, there's giant teeth that's coming towards me. That sort of thing, awe and wonder. I figured Kirk would look at the moment of death and go, oh my.
It was fun.
Oh my. I'm frightened of death. I'm scared.
Are you?
Yeah, I thrust it out of my mind, and probably by the dint of work, because I know death is over my shoulder, by the dint of work that I'm doing, I'm alive. By the passion I feel for my wife, I'm alive. By my family affairs, I hold them so close, I'm alive. But death is right there, and I'm fearful. I'm panicked.
What are you fearful of?
Losing all this. Now you're out there, you finish Star Trek, and you leave. Where do you go?
Here.
Did you know you were coming here?
Yeah, I have nowhere else to go. I have nowhere else to go. People say, oh, what are you doing now? Well, I mean, what I'm doing always. I'm right here.
Here you are, at home, so happy. And yet you yearn for more. What do you yearn for? What do you want? What's life going to tell you?
You look at me and wonder, you see? You look at me and
think.
No doubt. You, look at me and wonder.
will the flame
go out?
No,
burn out. No. That flame is there.
No one is sure of sunshine.
No one is sure of rain. All we know.
But my love for you
will always be there.
Will linger on and on
and on.
All I know is that I have found a greater peace, a greater tranquility, a truer sense of who I am and why I'm here on stage or in front of a camera than I find in life.
Not fame, not money. Not even the craft itself is more important to me than the people that I love. And that's where I've come to. I suppose that was always me, but it takes some years of feeling the deep strains of love. It's the only mystery that is infinitely important.
No, it's this thing about the freeing of how we conceive, how we perceive each other, the world, the possibility of things.
I've always wanted to believe. So when they present something like Quantum Leap to me or any time travel, I want to believe that. I want to believe that we can do that because I know that we can split the atom and move it from one side of the cement block to the other side of and put it back together again. So theoretically, we can do that. So I'm on board. I'm there. And when your guys' show is on and I'm looking at you guys fly, I'm thinking, we're going to be able to do that someday.
It was one of the best experiences of my life. I met some of the closest friends that I think I'll ever have. It certainly changed the trajectory of my career, but fundamentally, I think what acting is all about and what you've shown a great deal of, especially with Boston Legal, is a sense of humor. There's a fun, there's a joy.
I know that if it were all to end this evening, everything, I would be largely known for my work on Star Trek. I would be Captain Picard. Not Macbeth, not King Lear, not Shakespeare, not any of those things, but Captain Picard. And I am absolutely fine with that.
Wow.
Fine.
In this instant, for you to have said that, here's the gift you've given me. I've made this long journey from Los Angeles to London to talk to you. And the gift I've got is my realization that I, too, would feel the same way if they say that was Captain Kirk. All of a sudden, I've suddenly had a release to say, I'm happy with that. Why not? Great character, long lived. 45 years later, people are still talking about Captain. Who does that?
Unprecedented.
Unprecedented. So what if they say, beam me up, Scotty?
Yeah.
If I could, I would, should be my answer.
Yeah.
So, Scotty, wherever you are, it's okay to beam me up. But not yet.